very good evening to our viewers. Wish you a very happy, hard day. Apollo Hospitals has been a pioneer in healthcare since 1983 and achieved several milestones in the heart care treatment as well. The first heart transplant was done in the year 1995. We have some of the best doctors in the world working for the Apollo Group throughout the country and the world. And with us today, we have one of the best doctors, Dr. Arun Srinivas, a distinguished cardiologist in the state of Karnataka and an eminent name in the city of Mysore, who has pioneered cardiovascular care in city and has served the people of Mysore and the surrounding districts for the past 15 years. Having been awarded fellowship by leading institutes in the US, Europe and Australia, he is the only cardiologist in Mysore who has obtained international training in coronary, pediatric and peripheral vascular interventions. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
As we begin our session today on predicting, preventing and overcoming cardiovascular diseases, it's a leading cause of death globally. Around 1.5 crores of deaths happen every year because of cardiovascular diseases, and it's the theme of the World Heart Day this year. Can you please define and help our viewers with the information of what are CVDs and the symptoms of it and what causes them?
To begin with, let me wish all the viewers a very happy and healthy World Heart Day. Now, talking about cardiovascular diseases, these are diseases which affect the heart, the brain and the other major blood vessels in the body. The main causes of this are basically what we call as risk factors. Risk factors can be either high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, high cholesterol, or in many cases just a strong family history. These are the 5 main major risk factors. There are multiple smaller risk factors like obesity and a very sedentary life, and in the present days stress and pollution. These would be some of the other contributing important risk factors.
Knowing the risk factors, is it possible that we predict this in advance so that we have better chances of curing them?
Yeah, most people, I would say almost 12 to 15% of adults are at risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, according to me, everybody should be taking care, and especially those who have risk factors. Like suppose you have somebody in the family, your parents or your elder siblings have had stroke or heart disease, then obviously there is a strong family history, and such people should take extra precautions and get themselves tested early, so that in case they have other risk factors like undetected diabetes or blood pressure or high cholesterol, most of these things may not have symptoms. So they need to get it tested and addressed early and to keep them under control so that the effects of these can be prevented. And to a great extent, cardiovascular disease can be postponed, if not totally prevented, by taking care of these risk factors.
So how does one get to know that they have something like that once they come to you? How is it diagnosed?
Yeah, normally, of course, is the first part is the history. We ask for symptoms. Now, symptoms of cardiovascular disease can be divided into 2-3 different categories. Okay. First is, let us talk about the heart. If they have symptoms of, say, tiredness on walking, or like while climbing stairs they get breathless, or they get some discomfort in the chest or the shoulders or back, so any discomfort, I would not always call it pain. Some people just experience symptoms of, say, tightness or squeezing sensations. Now, if they have any of these symptoms, especially on exertion, that would be an important symptom. On top of that, many of them do not have pain, they would have only tiredness or breathlessness. And sometimes they can have symptoms of, say, palpitations, that is irregular and fast heart beating, or swelling in the legs. These would be some common symptoms of heart diseases. Similarly, for stroke, we have what is known as transient ischemic attacks. Before developing stroke, many patients would have some early warning signs in the form of slurring of speech or weakness on one side of the face, or difficulty in seeing from one eye, or weakness of the arms or legs, or sudden forgetfulness or loss of memory for short periods of time. And many of these things are precursors of stroke. And if they get evaluated at this stage and medications are started, many of these strokes and heart attacks can be prevented.
Yeah, I think that was very good information, and you can watch out for these signs. Whenever we talk about any health care related thing, we come to the part of diet. And when we speak about the heart, it's mainly the first question comes up is oil, the usage of oil. And so how important is the diet and the consumption of oil for everyday users?
Now, diet of course is very important, because according to me, we almost all live to eat. So the diet is a very important part, and whatever the seriousness of the illness, one question which every patient or every patient's spouse asks us is, what should we eat?
Right.
And unfortunately, the realization that healthy diet is necessary or important only comes after they suffer a problem.
Okay.
Nobody at the age of 30 or 35 or 40 would ask us what to eat.
Yeah.
They only ask about it after they have a heart attack or after they have a stroke. By then it is probably already too late. The damage is already done. And there is almost no use trying to change the diet at the age of 70 or 80. The diet has to be a healthy diet right from the beginning, which means almost the age of 15 or 20. And putting it very simply, the things you should avoid are very high fatty food in the form of red meat, and not more than a small piece, maybe once a week if you are a non-vegetarian. If you are a vegetarian, it is that much better. You need to avoid much less of the problems, and it is easier to eat a healthy vegetarian diet in the form of predominantly fruits and vegetables, and as little as possible of fried food and butter and ghee, and fresh fruit and fresh vegetables would be ideal. And for the little oil that we use, we should use as little as possible, and for the little that we use, we should try and stick to vegetable oils in the form of olive oil or groundnut oil or rice bran oil or sunflower oil. Any of those things, vegetable oils are better, and you should avoid animal fat in all forms, which includes ghee, butter and other non-vegetarian items.
Okay.
If at all people who eat non-vegetarian food, what is permitted or what is better is probably fish and a small amount of white meat in the form of skinned chicken. Those two things are, if at all, permitted.
Okay.
But if you can avoid that, that would be healthier.
That's a key message to all our viewers, to start early, adopt healthier lifestyle and diet, and not later when the damage is done. Yes, doctor, coming to the next question, is there a difference between how this happens, or the cardiovascular disease happens between men and women?
Not a whole lot, not a whole lot. There is a lot of similarities of how it occurs. The few key differences would be ladies are protected from most of the cardiovascular disease during their fertile period,
Right.
or till they attain menopause. Till the age of about 50, the incidence is less. Not that it is zero, but it is significantly less. Unfortunately, a lot of this protective effect is lost if you have unhealthy lifestyles in the form of one is bad diet, second thing is very poor exercise or no physical exercise, which adds to the problem of overweight,
Okay.
and diabetes. These are the 2-3 things which totally negate the protective effects of the female hormones. And on top of that, if you have had, for some reason, if you have had hysterectomy, or which has now become almost a fashion, and many ladies in their 30s and early 40s would have had hysterectomy. And once hysterectomy is done, the protective effect is lost within 5 years. So many of them by the age of 45 or 50 are as good or as bad as men as far as the risk factors are concerned.
Okay.
This is about the risk factors. How they come to the hospital, how they present with symptoms, again, there are some differences. The incidence of chest pain or chest discomfort is much less in ladies than in men. they usually have more non-specific symptoms in the form of tiredness or breathlessness and some shoulder pain, palpitations, such things, which may not always point to there being a heart problem. And because of that, it is neglected. And many times it is attributed to some vitamin deficiency or some weakness.
Right.
And many times they postpone coming to the hospital. And because of that, they present to hospitals much later and have worse prognosis and more complications than men.
Right. Doctor, you spoke about diabetes. What about the other comorbidities that we have, and do they pose challenge towards cardiovascular diseases like
All risk factors according to me are equally important. Right from a strong family history to high blood pressure, which is very easy to recognize, very easy to treat, painless. At least in diabetes, you have to go for regular blood checkups, or you have to get yourself pricked every few weeks to check the blood sugar. Compared to that, detecting blood pressure is easier, painless, and quite easy to treat. You don't require to take injections like you take for diabetes. But even then, almost 60 to 70% of hypertensives are not under good control, which adds to a great extent to the risk of stroke. High blood pressure causes far more strokes than anything else. And diabetes causes far more heart attacks and kidney failures than anything else. So these would be the two major differences between the two risk factors. And of course, other things like smoking, cholesterol for everybody. That is true for everybody, both males and females. High cholesterol and smoking are of course very important and fairly easily reversible risk factors. The only thing that you cannot reverse is of course the family history. If you have genes that make you prone for anything, whether it is kidney failure or diabetes or heart attacks or stroke or cancer, there is not much you can do to totally prevent it. Having an extremely healthy lifestyle, you can postpone some of the effects by a few years, but eventually it will get
still
you.
happen.
It will still get you.
Right. So currently we are seeing there is a pandemic going on, the COVID-19. Is there an impact that you're seeing in the cases that those are coming to you, and is it related to cardiovascular health?
Now, COVID, as we know, is predominantly a respiratory problem. Gets into the system mainly through the respiratory tract, the nose and the throat. And the effects are predominantly related to oxygenation in the lungs. Having said that, as the pandemic has spread all over the world, and as we see more cases, we have realized that there are a lot of other effects related to the COVID-19 infection, which includes blood clots in the arteries of the brain, of the heart, of the kidneys, and even the legs. And there have been cases where they have had heart attacks. Actually, we have had about a dozen cases with almost no risk factors, young patients, one even at the age of 28, with no risk factors, who came with a heart attack, had blood clots, no other blockages. So it was not a typical atherosclerotic blockages that we normally see. They were just blood clots, and once they were cleared, he was all right. So it is possible that some of the heart attacks that we see now, especially in the young with no risk factors, could be just because of the COVID infection. And it also causes blood clots in other areas like the brain or in the legs, etc. And because of this, the risk of heart attacks has gone up. There are some studies which show about 20 to 30% increase in heart attacks during this last 6 months in the country. One related to the COVID infection per se, and other thing would be because of the extreme stress that most people are going through. Now, most families are going through an extreme amount of stress for various reasons. One could be the fear of infection and death. Second would be the various socioeconomic changes that have occurred. Many people have lost jobs, their salaries have been cut, there have been layoffs in major companies. A lot of self-employed small businessmen have had to close their businesses, and even those who are in big companies and established setups have either had to take a pay cut, or many of them have been laid off. And the financial crisis, the various problems at home, the lack of exercise because of fear of going out, and a number of patients of ours who have added weight and whose diabetes under has been not under control, has increased phenomenally.
Right.
Almost 100% of our patients have had increase in weight, and sugars have been out of control, and most of them blame it on one, overeating and no exercise. They have been sitting at home, and eating is a good pastime, so they keep eating, and it is home cooked food, usually good quality food, so they eat more, thinking that it is home food and nothing will happen. Weight increases, the exercise goes down, so all those things add to the risk of heart attacks.
Right, especially the younger age, right? If you're within the 30, you have that negligence saying that, I am still young. And
everybody now, the overall weight increase has been approximately 5 to 7 kilos in the last 6 months in most people.
Which is
most people,
significant
which is quite high.
Right. Doctor, we discussed about what causes and the various factors, but how do one overcome that, and are there methods that people can reduce the risk of getting cardiovascular diseases?
Yeah, most of this we have discussed and I've told you. One, you have to identify the risk factors early and keep them under control as much as possible. And if you just ask me 3 or 4 things of what we need to do, basically, most important thing is being aware that there is a risk and you want to be healthy.
Yes.
If you want to be healthy, there are ways to be healthy. One, of course, is to have a good balanced diet, healthy diet. Cut down eating out and junk food as much as possible. Now, sugars are again a very major risk factor as far as food is concerned.
Right.
Whether you are a diabetic or a non-diabetic, consumption of high amounts of sugar adds to a lot of problems, including weight, etc. And once you are above the age of 30 or 35, you need to get yourself checked regularly, especially if you have a strong family history, especially if you are overweight, especially if you have a very sedentary lifestyle and a very sedentary job like a desk job. And on a regular basis, if you get checked up, if you are conscious enough to do that, sooner or later you realize that you need to take more steps than just getting checkups done. You have to do regular exercise. When I say regular exercise, it means approximately 150 minutes per week. That's the minimum. Okay, that comes to approximately 30 minutes of fairly vigorous activity per day without missing a single day. You should not miss more than 2 days in a week. No 2 consecutive days you should miss. Even if you miss it for one particular day, you should make sure that you exercise the next day, because once you start missing it for 2 or 3 days at a stretch, that stretch keeps on increasing. And getting back to your normal routine becomes that much more difficult. So I would advise regular exercise as much as possible. An absolute minimum would be 30 minutes a day. But for somebody who's already into a problem, like they are already overweight or already have diabetes, and for them it would be much more. It would be 60 to 90 minutes per day on at least 6 days a week. And for those who want to lose weight, you can lose up to 100 grams per day. That is almost 3 kgs per week by exercising. Means vigorous exercise at least 100 minutes a day. So that is 100 minutes, 100 grams. That is a very simple rule. If you exercise for 50 minutes, you would probably lose 50 grams a day. Along with this very strict exercise and dieting and other things.
So rightly said, it's a choice, and you choose the kind of weight loss that you want and choose healthier lifestyle. Right, doctor. So the current trends in the treatment of cardiovascular care. So how is it treated, and how does the technology play a role in this? And where do you see the future technology helping in the cardiovascular care?
Now, the technology as far as treatment is concerned in cardiovascular disease has made tremendous strides in the last couple of decades. And unfortunately, the disease has more than kept pace with the treatment. The number of cases keep going up every single decade. And as far as technology is concerned, it is various things. One is the data, and the data analysis and artificial intelligence. A lot of it can be used to see who is at risk. That is basically you have to get yourself checked regularly. And when you put all those data into the system, like Apollo is doing for the entire country, And once you start doing that, you can identify those people, I won't say patients, because what segment of the population is at risk. A lot of artificial intelligence algorithms can be used to detect that. And of course, you can monitor sequentially of what is happening to a particular person, whether his weight is going up, his cholesterols are going up, and things like that, if you track the data on a regular basis. That is as far as the detection is concerned. As far as diagnostics is concerned, of course, the routine ECG, echo, treatment tests are there. But over the last decade, CT coronary angiogram and cardiac MRI have made a lot of progress. So even without doing a coronary angiogram, if you want to detect blockages, okay, you want to see how much blockage you have. Somebody has been a diabetic for 10 years, smoker, etc. And is really worried about the status of his coronaries. You don't necessarily have to get admitted to a hospital for a coronary angiogram. CT coronary angiogram is extremely good and accurate, and it gives you good data as far as the status of the arteries is concerned. And cardiac MRI tells you whether the blood supply to the heart is adequate, how many segments are getting less blood supply, what are the risks of heart attacks, or what the heart functioning is. Various other data can be made out by MRI or PET scan and other things, nuclear scans. As far as treatment is concerned, now everything is getting miniaturized. So angioplasty previously used to do from the groin with very large sheaths and tubes. Now most of our angioplasty, more than 90%, are done through the hand, through the wrist radial, which is far more convenient for the patient. They can get up and walk almost on the same day, and usually within 24 to 36 hours they are ready to go home. And with the availability of drug-eluting stent, the new technologies, it has become far easier to treat blockages. And the number of patients requiring bypass surgery, even with triple vessel blockages, has come down significantly. And as far as bypass surgery is concerned, previously the big surgery that most patients used to require, cutting them off right across their chest, that has come down. And with minimally invasive surgery, with just about a 2.5 to 3 inch incision, bypass surgeries can be done.
Wow.
So a lot of advances have come in the technology. So there is no need really for those who have problems to even be scared of the disease, because treatment is available, which really improves their quality of life and improves their survival also.
Very nice, but the aim should be prevention, right, at the first place. Okay, Doctor, you recently performed a coronary lithotripsy. We came to know about that, so can you please share some information on that?
And that is one of the newer things that has come into the country. And we were fortunate to be the first hospital.
This was the first in Mysore as well.
First in Mysore, and I think the third one in Karnataka.
Okay.
And that is again the newer technology where you use ultrasound. Previously, lithotripsy was a technology which uses ultrasound to break stones in the kidneys. Kidney stones were treated with lithotripsy. Now the same principle is now available to treat blockages in the arteries, especially those have become stone hard. Soft blockages or blood clots will not get cleared with this. Now blockages which are very hard, especially in diabetics, especially in elderly people, where because of long-standing association of the blockages in the artery, they become hard like stone.
Calcified
blockages, exactly. So those blockages can be cracked or cleared with the lithotripsy, which is in some way similar to doing a regular angioplasty. The only thing is, along with the angioplasty balloon, you have sound emitters placed within the balloon. And externally you can control the amount of energy and a number of shocks or pulses that you give. That cracks the calcium, softens it up, and then it is easier to clear them and put a stent. It's a very simple and a very elegant technique, and especially for, as I said, for elderly people, and many of them can avoid bypass surgery if they can have this lithotripsy procedure.
Yeah, otherwise the elderly mainly see the challenges.
They really do not want to have a major surgery, because whatever it is, if something can be done in a simple manner, surgery would remain the last option. Most people do not want surgery, even if it has become very simple and less complicated.
Non-invasive. Right, doctor. So before we wind up, doctor, would you like to give any message to our viewers on this occasion of World Heart Day?
Only message I would like to give is stay healthy, employ healthy lifestyles, and start early. There is no use trying to change your diet or suddenly start walking after you are 60, because by then lot of damage to your body and your arteries is already done. So if you really want to be healthy when you are 60, you should start employing a healthy lifestyle right from the age of 20-25, which includes a healthy diet, regular exercise, very strictly no smoking, and regular checkups to make sure that in case you start developing problems like blood pressure, diabetes or cholesterol, you can keep them under control, and try and reach your ideal body weight as early as possible and try and maintain it as long as is possible.
Thank you so much, doctor. It was quite a bit of information on this occasion, and a lot of simple things to follow a healthy lifestyle and to make small changes so that they remain fit even in times of pandemic like these. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the viewers, and wishing you all a happy and healthy Heart Day all over again.
Thanks to our viewers. If you have any questions, you can please post in the comment box. Thank you.